For the last week of August, I decided to do my own 7-day roguelike challenge. As I mentioned in my video, just a bunch of game ideas, I wanted to try combining Frogger and Rogue, so that's what I was aiming for in this prototype. For the first day, I got the basic character animations in place. I had originally wanted the premise for the world to be about a robot exploring crashed ships for new parts. I quickly figured out that I don't know what a hopping robot would look like. A blob was the next obvious answer for a malleable, hopping character. After a fair amount of fiddling with the different blob shapes, I settled on something that I liked, and started in on the animations. I created some hopping animations for forward and backward, and another for side-to-side hopping. I started on a tongue animation before abandoning it for the jump animations. The rest of the first day was throwing all of this into Unity. I wanted to add an option for strafing, so I separated the body and eye animations, so the direction the blob is moving is separate from the direction it is facing. It took a while to trigger the right animations at the right time. By the end of the day, I had a blob hopping in different directions in a blank void. The movement code I stole from another project I did, where I tried making 3D Block Dude. I had to make a fair amount of changes from 2D to 3D, but it gives me built-in block pushing when I get around to that. Day 2 was making a world for the blob to hop around in. I had some space station tiles that I made for a previous attempt at the game that I used for level generation. For testing, the level fills on a tile map with a small random chance to skip a space. The rest of the day was making it so a blob could actually fall off the level. It just teleports back to where it starts, but at least there's some kind of consequence to standing on empty space. The third day was the start of the work week, so I had a lot less time to work on the game, but still managed to do something with the evenings. I spent this evening adding jumping into the game. My hack for the jump action is to just move 2 squares in a direction. The character only checks if it is falling if it isn't moving, and because it doesn't stop long enough, it's able to skip over a blank space. Day 4 was the start of level generation. I spent a while trying to get some grass tiles and background tiles made. I went with a simple minimalist style to try to do things quick. I also looked at some other roguelikes and wanted to step away from how dark some of those games look. I spent a while fiddling with the camera and the character colors as well before settling on the pastel style I used. The way the level is generated is picking a random direction from the previous tile and repeating that for a certain number of tiles. It was a really easy way to make nice islands that guarantee every tile is reachable. Day 5 was getting the player to spawn in this new world. I didn't want a set player spawn, so I fought with the code a while to make sure the player stays on a valid tile. At this point, it just picks random spaces until it lands on a valid tile. Day 6, I started getting an ending to the game. I fiddled around with making some kind of space-time rift, but I didn't like anything I came up with. Eventually, I just called it good enough and got it spawning into the level using the same code as the player spawn. I also got to start on the main menu before the end of the day. For fun, I played around with the colors of the game and made a spooky version of the level. The last day was just finishing menus. I got a pause screen working that goes back to the main menu. The main menu was just a quick logo with a video of the game in the background. For the name of the game, I settled on Blobber as an homage to Frogger. I added Rifts Between Worlds as a subtitle to separate the game from the term Blobber that is used for first-person dungeon crawlers. Now, for lessons that I learned. The product I ended up with is barely a game, but at least it's a solid foundation. Making a full roguelike in a week is a bit much to do while also still having a full work week. I definitely got slowed down with the movement code and level generation. If I were to do something that is a roguelike first, there would be no player animations and levels would be square. As for Frogger, I'm really happy with the result. I still need to fix the animations so the character moves at the right part of the animation, but everything else is working. I'm a little bummed there's very little challenge to the game, but I had fun wandering around the little islands looking for the exit rift. So what's next? I was working on a big project called Altercation for a while, but it's gotten hard to work on a multiplayer game during the pandemic. I love Altercation, but I needed to work on something else for a while. If you liked this video, then you're in luck. I'm going to continue working on Blobber. It's a smaller project, and because of its roguelike nature, I can call it done whenever. I'll be working on the roguelike part of the game next, so I'll be tackling enemies and making items to deal with those enemies. To keep up to date, find me on social media. I did a rebranding, so you can find most links under Ryan S. Peterson Games. There's also a link tree you can click on to make it a little easier. If you want to fund the creation of my varied game projects, you can do so at Patreon under Ryan S. Peterson. And a big thank you to my new patron, Sherry Lewis. Thanks for watching and have fun sleeping!